I got back early from a girls' trip, hoping to surprise my husband. And instead, I heard something I can never unhear. He was on the phone upstairs, completely unaware I was home. "Marriage is a nightmare, man," he said. "Every day I wake up wishing I hadn't done it. If it wasn't for her family's money, I'd be long gone." We had just celebrated our 3rd anniversary. I didn't confront him. I left the way I came in, silently. Then, 5 days later, he blew up my phone with 27 calls in 1 hour. That's when he realized what I'd heard. Right now, I'm hiding in the bathroom, typing this on my phone while the shower's running so Connor won't hear me crying. I've deleted and retyped this message over and over. Everyone else is asleep. I'm still wide awake, shaking. Connor and I have been married 3 years. He always came off as different, more grounded, more real than the guys I usually met through my family's circles. We're not wildly wealthy, but my family's always been comfortable, and I've never had to stress about money. Connor came from a more modest background, and last weekend we renewed our vows in front of our closest friends. He cried reading his said I was the best thing that ever happened to him. The trip to Nashville was supposed to be fun. Me and 3 college besties. We planned it for months. Spas, wine tastings, rooftop bars. But by day 2, Scarlett got sick from some shady chicken joint, and Tina had to deal with a last-minute work issue. The trip fizzled out, so we decided to head home early. I figured it was the perfect chance to surprise Connor. He always says he misses me when I'm away. Sends those dramatic selfies from the couch like a sad puppy. So I picked up his favorite nachos and craft beer on the way and let myself in quietly through the garage. I set the food down in the kitchen, then headed upstairs. That's when I heard it, his voice from the gaming room. I wake up every day regretting this. I froze. I waited for a laugh, thinking maybe it was some weird joke. But then came the rest. If it wasn't for her money, I'd be out. Only good thing is I don't worry about rent anymore. That vow renewal? Torture. But hey, small price for a comfortable life, right? And then, her dad's offering me a spot in the family business. Once I'm in, I'll have more options than being the money wife's husband. That's what I am to him. The money wife. Not a partner. Not the best thing that ever happened to him. Just a ticket to an easier life. Somehow I managed to walk back downstairs without making a sound. Took the food, left again, and cried in my car for 2 hours. A woman tapped on my window, asked if I was okay. I told her my dog died. That was the first of many lies I told that day. I dropped off the food, said Connor wasn't feeling great, then told my friends I'd checked into a hotel by the airport to get some work done before flying back out. Truth is, I just drove. For hours. Every memory, every dinner, every moment replayed through this ugly new lens. Like how he insisted on paying for cheap meals, or how he avoided letting me help with his loans until I practically begged, or how his ambitions only got serious once my dad offered him a connection. That anniversary gift from his parents, a wooden sign that says, "Where your story begins." I stared at it this morning while sipping coffee, thinking we were starting a new chapter. Turns out the whole story was just business for him. I went back to Nashville, spent the next few days pretending everything was fine, drinking too much, and smiling through the pain. Then I came home at the time I was supposed to come home. I greeted him with a kiss, looked straight into the eyes of the man who called our marriage a nightmare, and smiled like I didn't already know. It's been 5 days of sleeping next to someone who, as I recently learned, wakes up every morning wishing I wasn't there. 5 days of replaying every moment of our relationship, trying to figure out which parts were real and which were just part of his performance. A performance he clearly mastered. Lately, I've been looking through our financial activity and something doesn't sit right. Small withdrawals here and there, $200, $300, just low enough to avoid suspicion. But now I can't stop asking myself, where is that money going? Is he stashing it away to make a clean break? Is there someone else? Someone who knows I'm just the money wife? Someone he's laughing with about me? I haven't told a soul. Not my friends and definitely not my family. My dad adores Connor. He always says he finally has the son he never got. The thought of him finding out that Connor only sees him as a business opportunity, it would crush him. But I've started making small, intentional changes. Yesterday, I left a browser tab open with my private banking info. The account Connor doesn't know exists. This morning, I casually mentioned that my dad is rethinking some of his investments due to the economy. I've been working late, keeping more conversations to myself, stepping back just enough for him to feel it but not question it directly. Our bathroom sink has been leaking for weeks. Connor kept saying he'd get to it this weekend. Last night I hired a plumber without saying a word. When he arrived, Connor looked genuinely confused. I shrugged and said, "You've just seemed occupied." The fix took 10 minutes and cost $85. I could practically see him doing the math in his head. Money he thought he could control, spent without his say. And now he's uneasy. Today, while I was out, he called me 27 times in 1 hour. When I finally answered, he sounded panicked, asking if everything was okay, if I was upset, if something had happened with my family. I played it off, told him my phone was in my bag while I was at Target, said everything was fine, then asked, "Why would you think otherwise?" The pause on his end said everything. So now I'm back in the bathroom, the water running to mask my voice, trying to figure out my next move. I know I need to confront him eventually, but I also know I have to be smart. Our finances are intertwined. My name's on the mortgage, but he's on the deed. Everything is tangled, by my mistake. Part of me wants to confront him, loudly and directly, but another part of me knows, strategy is smarter. Maybe I pull away, little by little, secure my accounts, gather what I need, let him think things are fine until I'm ready for them not to be. He lied to my face for 3 years. I can handle a few weeks of acting too. I need to get out of the bathroom before he gets suspicious. I'll go kiss my husband goodnight and lie next to him, calmly building my way out. "Oh, just now," he texted. "Want to get away for the weekend? Just the two of us." The timing, the audacity. I'll update again soon. That weekend at the lake house revealed more than I expected. With barely any Wi-Fi, Connor spent most of the time pacing around, phone in hand, complaining about the signal. He kept wandering to the end of the dock, the only spot where you might catch a bar or two of reception. At one point, I quietly followed him. I heard him on the phone telling someone he was losing his mind being stuck in the middle of nowhere, and that he'd make it up to them when he got back. I stood there frozen. Make what up? And to who? When we got home Sunday night, he barely unpacked before claiming he needed to run to Walmart for something work-related. 2 hours later, he still wasn't back, even though Walmart is 12 minutes away. I checked our shared account, expecting to see a receipt. Nothing from Walmart, but there was a $60 charge from a bar across town. Earlier during that trip, I'd casually mentioned my dad might be considering early retirement, due to some health concerns. Total fiction. Just something I threw out there to see his reaction. And Connor didn't miss a beat. He spent the next hour grilling me with detailed questions. Not about my dad's health, but about his business, the trusts, our long-term financial stability. It was like watching someone pull off their own mask without even realizing it. And that's when I really started digging. Over the last 3 years, Connor has taken almost $117,000 from our joint accounts, supposedly for investments and business expenses. But there's no record of any returns. The strangest part? A pattern. Large withdrawals usually show up right before his trips to his hometown. Is he supporting someone there? A second life? I don't know. But something's not right. Last week, while he was at the gym, I did something I never thought I'd do. I searched his nightstand, and I found it. A second phone. One of those cheap prepaid ones. It was locked, but he'd stuck a note with the passcode right to the back of it. Classic Connor! Only one contact was saved. Just D. There were dozens of texts. Meetings, money, a long-term plan. One message from 3 months ago said, 2 more years and we're set. Set for what? I took photos of everything, then put it back exactly how I found it. Since then, I've started tweaking my behavior, just slightly. A little less warmth, more phone calls in private, a few mentions of having lunch with a family lawyer. Not enough to cause a confrontation. Just enough for him to notice. And he has noticed. 2 nights ago, I realized someone had gone through my closet. The boots I always keep in a specific order, they were off. He watched me from the bed as I rearranged them, pretending not to notice. Yesterday, I caught him on my iPad, looking through my browser history, on which, by the way, I'd intentionally filled with searches like what to do when your partner is hiding money and setting up financial boundaries in marriage. He jumped when I walked in and suddenly started raving about how much he loved the lasagna I was cooking, even though I was clearly making stir-fry. The fridge? Clicking for months. The porch light? Out since last year. The table? Wobbly since we bought it. Now, suddenly, he's Mr. Handyman. It's like he's scrambling to prove he belongs. I've started meeting with my best friend Loretta once a week. She's the only person I've told. She helped me set up a new email account, and she's the one who convinced me to start documenting everything. Last Wednesday, I was sitting in a Starbucks, not at a client meeting like I told him, but reading stories online from people who've been through this. That's when Connor showed up, with takeout, something he's never done in 3 years. Said he was just missing me. But then he spent the entire dinner asking about a phone call he overheard. One where I said something about making big changes. The call was about redecorating our guest room. But he doesn't need to know that. I think I finally understand what triggered the 27 missed calls. That morning, I'd left some bank statements on my desk, accidentally on purpose. They showed his most recent withdrawals. I hadn't said a word about them, but when I came home, the papers had been moved. When I finally returned his call, the conversation went like this. Me. Hey, what's the emergency? I was in meetings. Him, breathing heavy. No emergency. Just, is everything okay? With you? With us? You've been distant. Me. Distant how? Him. I don't know. You've been taking calls alone, and you mentioned your dad might change his business plans. I'm just worried. See that? He wrapped my dad's business into a concern about me. Classic Connor. I used to miss those little manipulations. Not anymore. And I didn't give him what he wanted. Me. Everything's fine. Just busy with work. Why would anything be wrong? That's what I told him. Even though the silence on the other end of the call stretched so long, I thought it disconnected. Finally, Connor whispered. No reason. I just love you, that's all. And I answered, I love you too. The biggest lie I've ever told. After we hung up, I sat in my car for nearly an hour and cried. Not because the relationship is ending, but because the version I believed in never existed. The man I thought I married, turns out he was a role Connor played. A well-rehearsed character who saw me not as a partner but as a convenient lifestyle with a bank account attached. Last night, out of nowhere, he brought up the idea of doing another vow renewal. This time for the family members who couldn't make it to the last one. I asked him why the sudden interest, considering we just renewed our vows 2 weeks ago. He stumbled through something about sharing our love with everyone who matters. Translation? He's spiraling, and now he wants to re-solidify his position with my family. I smiled and said, maybe next year. The relief that washed over his face was almost painful to watch. What he doesn't know is that I've already consulted with a lawyer. Not our family's attorney, but someone Loretta connected me with. Someone completely outside our usual circles. My first appointment is next week. I've documented every questionable financial move, quietly secured my personal documents and family keepsakes, under the pretense of helping a friend with a photo shoot for her Instagram. Another lie, learned from a master. Then something strange happened this morning. I was getting ready, and Connor came up behind me in the bathroom and hugged me. And then he cried. Real tears. Told me he felt like he was losing me but didn't know why. And for a second, I almost cracked. Almost confronted him right there. But I remembered him laughing about how convincing he is, about his Oscar-worthy performance. So I just patted his arm and said I was fine, just busy with work. And like magic, the tears disappeared when I mentioned I might have to reschedule our upcoming trip to New York. The one where we'd be staying at that luxury hotel his influencer friend recommended. Funny how fast the heartbreak dried up at the idea of losing that little bonus experience. The confrontation is coming. I can feel it. But I'm not rushing it. I want him to feel the tension. To start questioning everything. To live in the same uncertainty I've been quietly suffocating in. Is that petty? Maybe. But when someone flips your entire reality upside down, I think you get a pass for wanting them to feel at least a fraction of what you've endured. Edit. For those asking, no. We don't have kids. Thankfully. There was always one more thing Connor said he needed to accomplish before starting a family. Now I see that one more thing was securing his position long enough to walk away with half of what I've built. Edit 2. He just texted me. Wants to have dinner with my parents this weekend. Says he misses them. Of course he does. Second update. It's been about a month since my last post, and a lot has happened. First of all, thank you. Truly. I read every single comment, even the ones challenging my approach. Trust me, I've questioned myself at every step too. But I kept going. After confirming that Connor had been secretly draining our joint accounts and treating our marriage like an investment, I spent the following weeks methodically preparing my exit. I wasn't planning to confront him until I had every piece in place. But sometimes life jumps ahead of schedule. Remember that dinner he was so eager to have with my parents? Yeah, we went. Connor was in full showman mode, complimenting my mom's new curtains, asking my dad about his golf swing, even offering to help my sister install her Sonos system. He was charming, attentive, warm. But now that I know, I could see through it all. Every line was rehearsed. Every smile had purpose. At one point, he casually mentioned he'd been looking into investment properties near my parents' neighborhood. My dad, ever generous, mentioned property values were expected to rise 20% in 5 years. Connor's eyes lit up. I'm not exaggerating. It was like watching someone win the lottery. That night, I found him browsing listings on our iPad, all luxury homes way outside what we could reasonably afford. When I asked how we were supposed to finance something like that, he gave me this too smooth smile and said, "Well, your dad did say he'd help with the down payment." He hadn't, not even close. The next morning, I met with the lawyer Loretta recommended. She was brilliant, clear, calm, and no nonsense. She walked me through exactly what I was entitled to, and what Connor might try to pull. Turns out, our prenup gives me a good layer of protection. Not bulletproof, but strong. Even better, the financial inconsistencies I've documented may give us grounds to challenge parts of the agreement if needed. While I was sitting in that office, Connor was having a meltdown back home. Why? Because I'd accidentally left my laptop open. One tab showed flight options to California, part of my escape plan to visit my cousin. That night I came home to a candlelit dinner, my favorite wine, soft music. He'd cooked, set the table, the works. But it wasn't romantic, it was desperate. His hands were literally shaking as he poured the wine. And during dinner, he kept dropping hints, tiny, nervous feelers to gauge if I was slipping away. And he's right, I am. Then came the part I truly didn't see coming. Connor started making all these strangely timed, overly sweet comments about how much he loves our life, how grateful he is for me, not my family, and how he's never felt more fulfilled. It was like watching someone deliver a monologue they hadn't rehearsed. The words didn't quite fit his mouth. And then, the kicker. He looked me straight in the eye and said, "We should start trying for a baby. Right now." From the same man who had spent 3 entire years inventing reason after reason to delay starting a family. I almost choked on my wine. I calmly asked what changed. And he launched into this emotional speech about what really matters in life, and how he's finally ready for the next chapter. He even got teary-eyed. It would have been touching if I didn't already know what I know. So I smiled, and I said, "That's funny. I've been thinking a lot about our future, too." The look on his face, this flicker of real hope, was honestly kind of heartbreaking. But I kept going. "I've been doing a lot of reflecting since I got back from Nashville," I said. That hope vanished fast, replaced by visible panic. He grabbed his wine glass so fast he nearly tipped it over. "What kind of reflecting?" he asked, trying to stay casual. And that's when I started laying down cards. Not all of them, just enough to make him squirm. "I've been thinking about what honesty looks like in a marriage," I said. "About the difference between what people say and what they actually want." He turned white, like ghost white. He asked what I meant, so I brought up his vows. The ones he read at our renewal ceremony. The ones where he said I was the best thing that ever happened to him. He nodded, trying to smile. I slowly pulled my hand away from his and said, "That's interesting, because I could have sworn I heard you say that whole ceremony was torture. That you had to fake your way through it while my family got misty-eyed." His face drained completely. Mouth opening, closing. No words. And I wasn't finished. Or maybe I misheard the part where you called our marriage a nightmare. Or the bit where you said the only good thing about being with me was that you didn't have to worry about rent anymore. That's when he knocked over his wine glass, deep red pooling across the white tablecloth. He didn't even try to clean it, just stared at me. "When did you hear that?" he finally asked. I looked him dead in the eye. "When I came home early from Nashville to surprise you." He tried to shift gears, softening his tone. "You misunderstood. I was venting. Everyone says things they don't mean when they're stressed." "Oh?" I said. "So which part didn't you mean? When you called me the money wife? Or when you said you were just waiting until you were established enough to have options?" He panicked, switched from denial to tears in seconds flat, said he was going through something, that he didn't mean any of it, that he loved me more than anything. But now I was watching it all with new eyes. The pleading, the emotion, the soft voice. Once, I would have seen sincerity. Now it looked like strategy. like performance. "Are you leaving me?" he whispered. "I haven't decided yet," I lied. Of course I had. But he didn't need to know that. Not yet. What followed were 2 of the most exhausting weeks of my life. Flowers to my office every single day, notes begging for forgiveness, calls to my parents, pretending he was worried about me, suggesting therapy, reaching out to Loretta, my best friend, to try and talk some sense into me. But the most telling part, not once, did he mention my family's wealth. Not the house, not the assets, not the business. It was like he knew it would confirm everything I now saw so clearly. Meanwhile, I kept moving forward. I finished transferring the last of our shared funds into my private accounts. I had a conversation with my family's financial advisor to lock down any possible access to our assets. I packed up the most valuable and irreplaceable items I own and moved them into a private storage unit he doesn't know exists. And then, the hardest part. I sat down with my parents, telling them the truth, after all these years of seeing Connor as family, was brutal, especially for my dad. He always said Connor was the son he never had. And now I had to look him in the eye and explain that the man he trusted had only ever seen us as a stepping stone. My mom adored him, and my dad, well, he saw Connor as the son he never had, telling them that their golden son-in-law was, in fact, a fraud who had only ever cared about money and access. It nearly broke them. My dad immediately wanted to confront him, but I convinced both of them to follow my lead, just a little longer. 3 days ago, the dishwasher broke. Perfect timing. Normally, Connor would complain about the cost of repairs, but this time he jumped at the chance to call someone. I casually suggested we just buy a new one, and he agreed. No questions asked about the price. He's clearly trying to look like money doesn't matter to him now. Last night, we went to a dinner party at my friend Scarlett's place. Connor has never liked her. Too loud, too blunt, too real. His words. But last night, he was hanging on her every word, laughing at her jokes, even complimenting her TikToks, the same ones he used to call cringe for her age. Then, right in the middle of dinner, Scarlett's boyfriend Lucas brought up a recent news story. A guy who'd secretly scammed his wealthy wife for years. Everyone at the table laughed about how ridiculous it was that the man thought he'd get away with it. Everyone except Connor, who suddenly got very, very focused on his mashed potatoes. Lucas, oblivious, turned to him and asked what he thought of the story. Connor muttered something like, "Not all relationships are what they seem on the outside." The table went silent. Scarlett looked at me, confused. I just smiled and asked her to pass the salt. On the drive home, Connor barely said a word, but once we pulled into the garage, he turned to me, face pale, eyes wide, and asked if I was sure everything was okay between us. I looked him dead in the eye and said, "If something feels wrong, maybe that's your conscience talking." He flinched like I'd slapped him. This morning, I caught him looking through our wedding album, something he hasn't touched in years. When I asked, he said he was feeling nostalgic. But the panic in his expression told me exactly what was going on. He's looking for signs, trying to figure out how much I know. Tomorrow morning, I have a meeting with my parents and our family's financial advisor. Connor thinks it's about a trust update. In reality, it's the meeting where he'll be formally removed from several beneficiary accounts, and where we'll begin the process of severing him from everything. I've warned my parents to keep things light and normal until the meeting is over. At this point, I'm not even angry, just tired. Tired of pretending I don't know. Tired of watching him scramble to hold together the perfect image he built. Tired of playing along with a marriage that was never about love for him. Tonight, Connor suggested we take a second honeymoon. He showed me photos of a 5-star resort in Bali, infinity pools, private chefs, the works. A few months ago, I would have been over the moon. Now, I just wondered how much of my family's money he was planning to spend on one last effort to win me back. I smiled and said, "That sounds amazing. Let's talk about it after tomorrow's meeting with my parents." His whole body relaxed. He thinks he still has time. What he doesn't know is that by 10 a.m. tomorrow, his entire illusion is going to collapse. By 11 he'll know I've been aware of everything for weeks. By noon, he'll realize the free ride isn't just over. It's already gone in reverse. Edit. Just got a text. Want sushi tonight? My treat. Something special before the big meeting. If only he knew. Final update. Hey everyone. I promised you a conclusion when it was time. And it's time. Thank you, from the bottom of my heart, for all the support, encouragement, and fire you lit under me. Some of your words gave me the strength to keep going when I wasn't sure I could. So here it is. The final chapter. We all sat down in my dad's home office. Me, Connor, my parents, and Mr. Bradshaw, the financial advisor who's been working with my family since I was a kid. Connor was all smiles. Probably thought this was his chance to lock in his future. I'm sure he expected to leave that meeting with even more security than he had walking in. My dad started the conversation calmly. Connor, before we begin, he said, is there anything you'd like to tell us? Connor blinked, confused. No, everything's great, he said with that practiced grin. My dad nodded, then opened a folder. Inside, screenshots of Connor's secret withdrawals, text messages to Dee about their long-term plan, and the pièce de résistance, a transcript of the call I overheard, where he called our marriage a nightmare. Connor's expression shattered in real time. You could see the mask slipping second by second, from confidence to confusion to panic to desperation. He stammered something about being in a bad place emotionally and how people say things they don't mean. My mom, who'd been silent until then, leaned forward and said very quietly, "You meant every word, and you know it." That was the moment my mom finally snapped. She looked Connor in the eye and called him exactly what he was, a gold-digging parasite. She said she had never been so wrong about someone in her life. Connor, of course, went into performance mode, trying to pull at her heartstrings, saying they'd always had a special bond and that she knew the real him. My mom just laughed and asked, "Which version? The one who called his marriage a nightmare? Or the one who cried during the vow renewal you faked?" That was the end of it. Mr. Bradshaw calmly explained that Connor had been officially removed from all family accounts, trusts, and future business interests. My dad let him know that divorce papers would be arriving that afternoon, and that he had 24 hours to gather his belongings and leave our home. Connor's final move? He turned to me, eyes full of tears, real ones this time, he deserves an award, and asked, "Are you really going to throw away 3 years of marriage over one stupid conversation?" I looked him straight in the eye and said, "I'm not throwing anything away. You did that the moment you decided I was just your ticket in." The divorce moved fast. When one side has overwhelming evidence that the other entered the marriage under false pretenses, and the resources to hire excellent legal counsel, things tend to move efficiently. Connor didn't go down without a fight. At first, he demanded half of everything, even tried to claim future shares in my family's company. His first counteroffer was so outrageous, even his own lawyer looked uncomfortable presenting it. But his case crumbled fast once we laid out everything. The financial records, the hidden transactions, and the damning recordings where he openly admitted that marrying me was a calculated financial move. In the end, he walked away with far less than he expected. Still more than he deserved, if I'm being honest. But nowhere near what he came for. The most satisfying moment? At our final mediation, his lawyer tried to argue that Connor had played a key role in supporting my career and contributing to our family's business success. My attorney just quietly played a clip of Connor's conversation with Danny, the one where he referred to me as the money wife, and bragged that being my husband was his meal ticket. The look on his face when he realized his own words had destroyed his leverage? I'll never forget it. The weeks that followed weren't easy. They were a mess of emotions. Anger, sadness, embarrassment, and a constant stream of how could I have been so blind? But with the help of an incredible therapist, seriously, best decision I made, I started understanding that Connor's success in deceiving me didn't mean I was weak. It meant he was practiced, strategic, and good at hiding his intentions. What she told me stuck with me. Trusting someone isn't a flaw. Breaking that trust is. I moved out of the house before it even hit the market. Too many memories. Most of them fake. Now I live in a small downtown apartment, decorated exactly how I want it. No compromises. It's not big, but it's mine. That first night alone was harder than I expected. I'd been so focused on logistics, utilities, deliveries, reorganizing my kitchen drawer chaos, that I didn't think about how it would feel. But little moments are reminding me who I am. Remember how Connor used to say my laugh was too loud in public? Well, last week I snorted laughing at a TikTok in the middle of a Starbucks line, and didn't even care. That felt like progress. My relationship with my parents has grown deeper. My dad actually apologized. Said he regretted not warning me that people might see me as a stepping stone, not a person. It was the most honest moment we've ever shared. And my mom? Full-on protective mode. She checks in every day, sends me links like 10 signs he's after your wallet, not your heart. A little over the top, but I know it's coming from love. She's also tried to set me up on 3 different blind dates. All financially independent men she's personally vetted. I've turned them all down. I'm not ready, not even close. But I appreciate the effort. My friends have been unbelievable. Loretta and Scarlett showed up for me in ways I'll never forget. Tina, though, not so much. Unfortunately, she took Connor's side in the beginning. Tina and I had been friends before Connor ever came into the picture. So when she chose to believe his version of the story, it stung more than I expected. She said I was blowing things out of proportion, that I was being dramatic. I stopped reaching out after that. Some bridges aren't meant to be rebuilt. What's been even stranger is running into people who don't know the full story. Like last week at Target, I spotted Danny. Yes, that Danny. The one Connor confided in. He gave me this awkward half wave, then suddenly became fascinated with paper towels. I smiled, kept walking. Later, I caught him watching me from across the parking lot as I loaded my groceries. It was obvious Connor had told him some twisted version of events that made me the villain. Honestly, let them believe what they want. I'm done wasting energy on Connor's little fan club. A few weeks ago, Connor showed up at my apartment, unannounced. Said he wanted to talk, to explain. I told him he'd had 3 years to be honest, and I wasn't interested in hearing whatever narrative he was rehearsing now. He tried to hand me a letter. I didn't take it. He left it in my mailbox anyway. At first, I wanted to tear it up without reading it, but curiosity won. Inside, it was a strange cocktail of apologies and excuses. He claimed he'd grown to love me, even if that wasn't the original plan. Said he regretted what he told Danny, that he missed us, that he missed what we built. I read it once, then shredded it. His words don't hold any power over me anymore. According to Loretta's cousin, who works at that upscale steakhouse downtown, Connor is now dating the daughter of one of my dad's business associates. She's been warned, more than once. But apparently, she believes Connor is just misunderstood, and that I must have done something to provoke him. Some people need to learn the hard way. As for me, I've rediscovered a part of myself I didn't realize I'd lost. Cooking, for one. Something Connor always dominated in our home. Last night, I made a mushroom risotto that turned out surprisingly delicious. Not bad for someone who used to be terrified of overcooking rice. Do I still have bad days? Of course. Some mornings I wake up furious that I gave 3 years of my life to someone who saw me as a walking wallet. Some days I still question my ability to trust. I catch myself replaying conversations, looking for warning signs I missed. But the divorce was finalized last month, 47 days ahead of schedule. The house sold quickly. I used my portion to pay off my student loans and put the rest into investments. At our final hearing, Connor tried to claim emotional distress, said I'd ruined his reputation and career. The judge dismissed those claims in minutes. Even his lawyer didn't look surprised. Last week, my mom sent me a screenshot from Facebook. A photo of Connor at a charity gala, smiling with his new girlfriend. My reaction wasn't jealousy. It wasn't anger. It was relief. Relief that I no longer have to wonder if every compliment, every "I love you," was part of some calculated move. Relief that he is someone else's problem now. The money wife is gone. Long live. Just Natalie. Oh, and remember that second phone I found? The one with the mysterious D contact? Turns out D was Denise, Connor's ex from college. She messaged me a few weeks ago, attaching screenshots of their conversations. Apparently they'd been in contact the entire time we were married. He'd been sending her money, promising they'd be together, that the vow renewal was the final step before phase 2. I didn't even feel angry reading it, just sad. She really thinks she's different, that she's the one he won't lie to. I sent her a single message. Good luck. You'll need it. Edit. A lot of people have asked if I still speak to Connor's family. The answer? Not really. His parents did reach out after everything came to light. They were horrified. They apologized. Said they had no idea what he was doing. We exchange holiday cards now, but that's it. Some ties just aren't worth keeping.